these stories I'm telling tonight, I wanted to tell them, to have them documented, and because, besides in my family and told among my family and some people in my tribe, that they haven't been told anywhere else.
Okay.
So I thought it'd be cool to, just document it and talk about it.
Yeah.
And I believe every story I'm telling you, I 100% believe. So.
Okay. Yeah. You mentioned a ghost town.
Greenwood.
So what was it? Railroad town or?
It was a little reservation town, and you see, when Shoto Creek was founded down there, it was a big deal because of the steamboats. That's where all the traffic came up. But then when the railroad came, that's kind of what caused Greenwood and this Shoto Creek to not be, it caused Greenwood to become a ghost town. And across the street from my family, or across the highway from my family's farm, was this place called the Tackett Station. We're going to come back to Greenwood. The Tackett Station, you can Google this. The Tackett Station is
How do you spell that? Just to document that.
Tackett.
Okay.
So the Tackett Station was kind of like a store, a place where the steamboats would drop things off. They had a butcher's shop there. They had a hotel there, and a bar, and a sheriff's office, and a post office, and everything was kind of it was heavy traffic. So the Tackett Station is across the highway from my family's farm. Okay, so the guy that owns the Tackett Station, his last name's Tackett. I don't remember his first name, and he was frontier justice down there, and so he would have trials and hang people in the yard there, and for every person he hung, he'd put a notch in the tree, and I went across, and I found this on the one of USD's websites. One of the professors or someone did some research on this.
Was he when did he die?
1800s.
Oh, okay.
Late
that tree still there?
Late 1800s. It was when I was in high school. It was when I was in my early 20s.
Is that something you could see then?
Yeah, you can go down and see it. Yeah, I saw this.
The notches, though.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So, everybody knew about the Tackett Station. All the farmers down there, and the farmers that live down there agree with the Native Americans that these ghosts are real. Because they live down there, they see the shit.
Yeah.
So, the Tackett Station, it became abandoned houses there and stuff, and so people got afraid of it and knew these stories about how many dozens of people were hung there,
Sure.
And they would say, don't drive by the Tackett Station at nighttime because your car or something will die. And one farmer told a story that he was driving his tractor at sundown, and this is like an abandoned house like you see alongside the highway when you're driving.
Sure.
All the windows are busted out. Nobody lives there. Weeds are all overgrown and everything. So this farmer's tractor dies at sundown, and sitting there trying to figure out why it won't start. And he looks over and Tackett Station. He's a little nervous because he knows the stories about Tackett Station and that's haunted. Mm-hmm. And he hears a phone start ringing inside the Tackett Station. And he runs all the way home to his farm.
Wow.
The next day he comes back in the morning with some other people and to work on the tractor and start it, but the tractor starts right up. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
So,
did he go check it out during the day then with other people around?
No, he didn't go in.
Stay away, huh?
So, yeah, so let's go to me being in high school.
Greenwood.
Let's finish Tackett Station and I'll bring you Greenwood.
Okay. We're not done with Tackett Station.
No, we're not done with Tackett Station.
Okay.
I'm a little sad about Tackett Station.
Who was hung on there? Was it just anybody could be hung?
Anybody, anybody that broke the law, yeah. Uh-huh. So I don't know. I mean, definitely dozens of people.
Is there a list names?
On the paperwork I read, I didn't find a list. It just said that he put the notches in the tree, and this guy, I mean, it was pioneer justice. So this guy was the law, and he was the only law, and it was pretty much, if he said you're done, you're done.
I wonder. I mean, what did he do with the bodies?
I'm imagining they probably buried them there somewhere.
Yeah.
Unless, I don't know. These people were being hung on the tree when there were steamboats going down the river. So
Yeah.
when is that? 1860s? I don't
Right.
know. So
Oh, but I wonder if that's known. I mean, do you know if that's known? Like, what happened to the bodies? Were there?
I don't know if there's a record
registry of who these people were.
I'm sure there's probably some people that we'll never figure out who they were.
Yeah.
There might be. I just haven't researched it. So
Okay.
So in high school, people are telling me about this Tackett station and the little people. The farmers would call them the little green men, and the Native Americans call them little furry people. Or
What is it?
my tribe calls them Chotinas or Chahutnas, and other tribes have different names for these little people.
Chotinas,
Yeah,
Chahundas,
Chahutnas.
Chahutnas.
And these little creatures were common to be seen down around Shoda Creek.
Oh, okay.
So we'll get back to them too. So I'm in high school, and down around there, it's all small towns, reservation and small towns, and everybody drinks outside on the road, out in the country and stuff. So we go down to Tackett Station one night to drink.
Were you guys drinking moonshine or regular old beer?
No, I never drank moonshine until I went to a rockabilly show over at what's that bar over by Jane Addams School. There was a punk rock show place there for a while that Mike Beaver used to run.
Oh, down on like Madison,
Yeah,
and there's a little bar there. Yeah, we played shows there.
yeah,
It changed names a couple times.
yeah. I had moonshine there.
It was,
We went
it
out
was a
in
good
the-
venue, really.
Yeah.
But the problem was probably the people running it. God, what was that called? It was a good show.
watering hole.
Yeah, well, that's the bar. And a guy had spicy pickled
Yeah,
sausages.
Yeah.
They're fucking good.
Yeah. But we used to go out back there and drink. Somebody brought moonshine,
I
and we'd go back there and drink.
It's funny. Like my mom's farm is right next to Hutterites, and we used to get hoot wine
Yeah.
and hoot whiskey and shit.
And down around Shoda Creek, there is Hooterites in the area.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so
didn't the Native American in that area, didn't they have any of that? Or is that
moonshine?
just... Yeah, didn't they do
No,
any...
I don't know of any Native American that's ever made moonshine. There
that
probably
was
is,
a
but
particularly white European
maybe
phenomenon.
maybe hooch that they made in prison or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know of any.
So you're just drinking.
Yeah, so me and a bunch of high school kids, we go down to the Tackett Station.
Uh-huh.
And I was moving around all the time as a kid, so they all grew up with this, and I lived down there for like 2 years when I was in high school. We go party, and they tell me the story, and I'm like...
So your family farm is across from Tackett Station,
Yeah.
but you only lived down there for 2 years at that point. Where were you before that?
We moved around a lot. I lived in a new place probably about every 6 months to a year when I grew up.
Oh, okay.
So, but
But your
family farm
was always there.
It was always there. We'd come down there, we'd
Okay.
leave. We'd come down there, we leave. So, anyways, we go drink there, and it's a normal night of drinking. And I got a little scared because when we were leaving, we were trying to get people to leave, and my friend.
Of you?
Huh?
Was there a crowd of you, or what?
Yeah, there was. I don't know, probably a dozen of it or something. We were gathering to leave, and we were yelling at our friends to come out, and it was just a couple friends in there, and they started yelling at us for trying to scare them, and we're all standing outside not trying to scare them, and I look at the windows, and I could see it was bright enough out. I don't know if it was a full moon or what, but
Windows
it was
of what?
the Tackett Station.
So you're outside on the road next to Tackett Station.
Yeah, and some of them went inside the Tackett Station.
Oh.
And so I could hear him yelling at us to tell him to quit fucking around and quit trying to scare him. And I could see their silhouettes in the windows. Well, then I could see someone else's silhouette in the upstairs window, the person that was fucking with them. And it wasn't any of us.
Oh. Yeah.
And then
How defined was that face that you saw?
it wasn't a face; it was just a silhouette of a body. Like I could see the silhouette of my friends in the windows moving around.
Right. Okay.
And then upstairs, I could see the silhouette of another person. And so everybody realized that was going on. They all scream. Everybody comes running out. They were sitting there, like, let's get out of here. And then everybody's like, I see the little green man. And then other people were like, the Jehunas. And
So
there's
saying
a whole
this legit.
there's a
feeling
whole
this is
bunch
happening.
of in the weeds and there's ditchweed and all kinds of weeds, and it was all rustling and stuff, and you could see these little reflections that were like, it was pairs of eyes that were reflecting, and they were saying it was little green men and little Chehutnas. So we got out of there.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening at the Tackett station then kind of bums me out is, at first they thought I got struck by lightning and burnt down, but that's not what happened. It was vandals, but
Okay.
nobody officially, no one knows who these vandals are
Yeah.
that burnt the Tackett station to the ground, but I might know who they are.
You know who they are.
Yeah, and it's a bummer that they burned it down.
Does that surprise you? These people would do that?
No,
Like, do you know the quality, the character of these people? Do you?
it doesn't surprise me. It was drunk high school kids, early 20s,
Oh.
just so.
Yeah, that is too bad. So who would own So that property, who owned that?
I don't actually know. So, and like the foundation's still there,
Oh, okay.
and the tree's still there with the notches on it that they hung people on, and the branch that they hung people on, you can see sticking
so the
out.
tree's still standing.
Yeah,
with the notches in it.
Yeah, but just the main buildings burnt down. So,
Huh.
okay, so we're gonna move on to ghost stories.
Greenwood.
Greenwood was a couple miles up the road from the Tackett station, my family farm on
Yeah.
Shota Creek there.
Did you ever go swimming in Shota Creek?
No, but Shota Creek's pretty much, it's hardly a creek anymore. It's pretty much gone. So
What
it's
does that
just
mean? It's gone.
dried up.
Oh, okay.
So, but this, but it
Because I
was,
asked, it's like maybe the water from the Missouri just has grown that much, or
no, the Shota Creek, I think, I think it went into the Missouri River, but it ends up just over time, this whole area is called Shota Creek down there. And it's really just the Missouri River bottom. So, Greenwood.
couple miles up from
Yep.
Tackett Station. Burnt that guy down.
It started to have a comeback. It became a ghost town, and very few Indian families live there. There's still probably 3 or 4 families that live there right now, but not many. And it became a ghost town because of the steamboats and all the traffic not coming down there anymore. In the 70s, it almost made a comeback because Don King came down there. You know who he is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sure, in case somebody doesn't, he's a boxer promoter, right?
Yeah, with the gray hair standing up
he's
straight
quite
up.
a
Yeah,
showman.
he came down with one of my cousins, a Native American guy named Sonny Hare, and they were gonna put on professional boxing matches down there. And I don't know.
What was the draw to that place for this,
Um,
or the appeal to it?
It was the 70s, the American Indian movement going on.
Okay.
Marlon Brando saying,
Right.
he refusing his Oscar for Native
Right.
Americans, and so I think Don King maybe saw like this is an opportunity to
Yeah.
get, so, but it never happened. Don King did come down there, and then after that, it really died. People left. There's an old school down there that's closed. But here's something else that happened there. People in the 70s, there was enough families living down there that they still had a church down there and they still had a school down there. And one day they say that they were sitting in school and they think the devil came walking into church, or they were sitting in church. They think the devil came walking into their church service. And
So is this a Native American church service or Christian? Like a Christian?
it's a Native American town. Everyone there is Native American, and it's a Christian church service, a Christian church, but it's all Native Americans there.
And they get converted probably.
Yeah, they were
in
they were
unfortunate ways
thrown
years
into
ago.
boarding schools. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're sitting there Sunday morning, and preacher's up there preaching a sermon, and doors get kicked open, and everybody stops because it's loud noise, and this man comes walking up the middle of the aisles, looks like a normal human white man with a goatee, like you'd imagine the goatee to have, and dark curly hair, and a little mustache and stuff, and he just walks up the aisles looking at the pews and everybody's smiling, walks up to the preacher smiling and bows his head, doesn't say anything, nobody says anything to him, and he turns around and walks out, and no one ever sees him again. But everybody was convinced he was the devil.
Okay.
And they closed the church down, and the last people left the town, except for maybe 3 or 4 families.
It's a random occurrence. And
Yeah.
it's been associated with the devil.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's in Greenwood.
This is in Greenwood.
You ever go into that church?
No. It's
Is
all
it-
boarded up. It was
I
down
don't know
there.
if that stop people though.
It was down there 20 years ago. I don't know if it's still there now.
Oh, okay.
So, all right. So, we'll go back to my family farm. Another ghost story. Back to the Chehutnas or the Chotinas, the little green men.
Yeah.
My great grandmother was with my grandma, Martha, my uncle Reuben, my uncle Joseph, my uncle Jim, and then she was pregnant with my uncle Daniel. And they're coming home one day, and they see a little Chehutna out in the yard, and great grandma stops and tells them all, don't do anything, don't go near it, don't talk to it, don't touch it.
What's it represent?
Bad things. Bad things. I don't think it doesn't cause the bad things, I don't think, but it's telling you that something bad's going to happen. I don't know, because the story, the way it plays out.
Are they? Do they come about from something what we would consider the living world, or are they considered dead? Or are they?
They're kind of like little 2 foot tall little Sasquatches, is what I would imagine they look like.
Okay.
And
But
they can turn into tree stumps to hide from people, and they're in the area because if you see little piles of they make little piles of rocks and twigs in kind of a little pyramid.
To what end?
I don't know.
Oh,
Nobody
okay.
knows. It's just something that they do. Nobody knows what they do.
Do people speak of their origin? I mean, what is?
No, they don't know. They just see them and don't know what they are.
Okay.
So it means something bad is going to happen when you see them, and
One's in your yard.
yeah.
The
And
family farm.
So it's in the yard, my family farm, and
You were there?
no, this is when my grandma was a little
Oh,
girl.
yes,
My
yes.
grandma's a little girl.
Yeah, you mentioned.
And what happens is my uncle Joseph, my grandma's brother Joseph, he threw a rock at it or something. I don't know, and it ran away, and then later my great grandma I said was pregnant, and the child she was pregnant with was born with cerebral palsy, and my uncle Joseph, who messed with it, died. So he got murdered.
Okay, so the consequence of him throwing that rock is that your
one uncle was born with cerebral palsy,
and
then
he
the uncle
was murdered.
Yeah.
So if we're speaking in terms of timelines, so that had been months later when your uncle was born. When was your great uncle murdered?
I don't know. It would have been within years, but
How did that happen?
He was killed by someone.
Yeah, weird how murder works.
If you know Native American history down there, the American Indian movement came about because there were so many unsolved murders down on the reservation there, and so he was.
I didn't know that.
He was one of the unsolved murders. There was like 900 cases of unsolved murders in South Dakota of Native Americans.
What's the belief on that? Like, why that happened? I imagine people talk and they have their opinions on it.
The law enforcement and people around that time were racist against Native Americans and didn't care about if you killed a Native American.
Okay.
You could kill a Native American, get away with it back all the way up into the 70s, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, if you study the American Indian movement, you can hear about how here in South Dakota there was a guy that was getting beat to death, and he runs in a city building in the middle of court, and everybody stops and looks at him, and he's all bloody and getting beat, and the guys that are chasing him chase him through the court, chase him right out the court out the other side, and they resume court and ignore it all, and that guy got beat to death.
That's a substantiated story?
Yeah.
Where was that at?
West River.
Oh, okay.
But it's one of the reasons AIM was founded in Minnesota, and it's one of the reasons they came over here is to start dealing with the cases that were going on over here.
Okay. Russell Means is in that, right? That was his kind of thing?
It was pretty much the three real founders are guys that made it become what it was Russell Means, Dennis Banks, and Clyde Belcourt.
Okay.
So, and it started in Minneapolis, where Dennis Banks and them started because of the racism of white cops in Minneapolis against Native Americans. They got police radios.
That's interesting. It's relevant.
Yeah, they got police radios, and they'd hear on the police radio something about Native American, and so they'd run over there to where the cops were going, so they would witness what was going on, so the Native American wouldn't be mistreated.
Oh.
So, and of course back then, we were called American Indians, and Russell Means and the American Indian movement, this is a little known fact, they said we were enslaved and defeated as American Indians and we'll be freed as American Indians. We're not going to let you rename us. Well, then we got renamed Native Americans.
So American Indian is the preferred term.
Not anymore today. The world and history is weird like that, because in the 70s, the Native Americans were like, absolutely not, you're not going to rename us. Sadly, there was not enough education of what was going on with Native American culture for all Native Americans to know that we were standing against being renamed by white people again. And they're renamed by white people again. And now today, there's not enough knowledge out there to say, hey, we're American Indians, not Native Americans.
Okay.
It's a little strange tidbit there.
I'm trying to, as a naive and ignorant white man, trying to picture contemplate the difference American Indian and Native American.
Well, for the American Indian movement, the point was you named us American Indians. We weren't American Indians, but we're not going to let you rename us again.
Oh, okay.
So we're just going to free ourselves with this false name you gave us and not let you do it again.
Oh, okay.
Well, then later white people came and said, we're going to call you Native Americans now.
I wonder why we wanted to do that.
So we don't feel as guilty.
Oh. Okay. I still feel pretty guilty.
Yeah. All right. So, ghost stories. That was my topic for the night.
To me, a ghost story would be if I was to experience something that would be out of character and a phenomenon that would blow my mind, whereas Native American Indian culture, that's just your life. But I have never seen something personally that I would say that was supernatural, and I feel like I've looked for it to some extent.
I was going to ask you if you had any experiences.
Yeah, and I feel like even growing up, I had a huge love of kind of space and stuff, and that really fell off for me. And I kind of wish it didn't. But even looking up and growing up in the country, you have a better opportunity to that, less light pollution and stuff. And I'd never seen anything I would consider UFO-ish I've never seen anything that we can necessarily considered supernatural. There's an exception to that, but I was also like 4 or 5 years old. I was in the bathtub at my parents' house, and the door to the bathroom kind of opened, and I looked up and I saw, and I can still picture it, like the face that I saw, and I don't know if it, and it wasn't somebody in my family, but I also feel like I had a pretty active imagination, and there was something there that I conjured out of my own imagination. That's the only thing.
That's perfect, though. That's a perfect example for us to talk about, because in the culture we live in today, it's so materialistic that the spirituality doesn't exist. So if you see something
right
that doesn't fit this reality,
mm-hmm.
and it's just taboo,
yeah,
our brains are going to be in denial, and they're just going to reshape it and be like, yeah, that didn't happen because that can't happen. So it didn't happen.
Yeah.
What's interesting, Native American way, when a baby's born, the soft spot in the head, at the crown of the head here,
yep.
They say that children, when they have that soft spot, they're still connected to the spirit world. So children can see ghosts much more clearly than adults. And as the older the child gets and the harder that spot gets, the harder it gets for the person to see the spirits. So even at the age of 5, it's probably...
Yeah, I probably still have it.
So,
but yeah, I mean, it's hard to discount how profound it was, because I don't remember much about being that age. I talk to my wife, like she remembers stuff being 3, 4, and like I have a very scant memory of even 8 and 9, and and I've heard weird things about that, like people that have that ADHD, anxiety,
yeah.
Or something like, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
well, what's a psychiatrist going to say about a Native American that goes to sweat lodge and talks to spirits and sees spirits?
oh, right. And my field that I work in, we do see that, and I guess it comes down to how there is the approach that's more, I guess, well, I don't know if you'd say it's holistic or what, but to not discredit it's more how disabling is it to you?
Yeah.
That would be how we ended up choosing to treat it too. It's like, okay, so you're experiencing this. Does that bother you? Do you accept that? Do you prefer it? Are you here because you do have an issue with it? I think that ultimately that's the approach. It's like, how disabling is it for you in your life?
Yeah.
And I suppose that's how we would choose to then treat it.
Yeah.